you graduated from college pursuing an art degree. Was it always a decision for you to be in a band, or were you originally wanting to do your life as a illustrator?
Like you said, I went to School of Visual Arts in Manhattan, and my only goal was to be a comic book artist upon graduating. But as I went through the years of college, I got more and more into music. I started picking up guitar kind of late in life, like 16, 17 years old. So Life of Agony was really my first band. We got signed in my senior year of college. We had been playing up and down the East Coast, developing a fan base, and then we got signed to Roadrunner Records, and then I had to make a choice. Was I gonna take my art portfolio around to Marvel and DC and probably eventually just get coffee for those guys, let's be honest, you know?
Got to start
Uh,
somewhere, right?
yeah. So that was on the horizon, or jump in the van with Life of Agony and go on tour and see what would happen, and that was I figured that would probably last about 6 months, and then I'll go take my portfolio around, but it turned into over 30 years of doing this, so I actually got into publishing and coming up with comic book ideas and things like that much later on when I had some downtime with the band. So I kind of got to do art and music with my life, which is great.
And I feel like this latest coloring book is your life coming full circle. You're making a coloring book around some of the most famous album covers of all time. When it came time to pick which ones you wanted to use, how did the process work for you deciding which album covers you wanted to utilize in this coloring book?
I tried to choose the most iconic album art that I could think of, the ones that would translate into black and white, though, because some covers, like Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, for instance, is mostly black and just the prism colors. So without that, if you strip that all away and then try and make a parody of it, I'm not sure if it would translate into a coloring page. So that was top of mind too. And then also a lot of fun for me was just coming up with the spoofs, horror parodies of these album covers. So like if something came to mind, like one of my favorite ones is like Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and I turned it into Goodbye Camp Crystal Lake, and I had uh, Jason Voorhees in place of Elton John, and there's the guy that he kills at the in one of the Friday the 13th movies. So it's a lot of fun because it mashes up my favorite things, art, music, and horror movies all in one book.
Another one that I remember that I thought was really funny was the spoof you did on Madonna as well. I thought that one was pretty good. At least I think that was Madonna, but
Yeah, that was Madonna like a virgin, and I turned into a vampire with a stake coming through her heart. And that was the first one I drew for the book. That was really what set the tone and the kind of idea. That one and the Bruce Springsteen cover, Born in the USDK. Those are the first two that I tackled.
I felt this looking through this, and it's good to see you confirm it. You seem to have a huge love for the classic 80s, 90s horror. Are you a fan of modern horror, or are you still someone who prefers the classic age of horror, so to speak?
I grew up on the old school horror movies, including the Universal monsters as well. And earlier last year, I got the honor of making an official Universal Monsters coloring book. So I got to revisit all those old movies that I grew up on. But my daughter's 17 and she's starting to get into horror the last couple of years. The It remake with Pennywise is like one of her favorite movies. And I took her to see Barbarian, and we watched Nosferatu, and there's a couple of newer type of movie spoofs in this book. There's Midsommar's in there, The Babadook. There's a couple that have come out in recent years.
I actually just saw a funny horror movie on Valentine's Day. I saw Hard Eyes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think it's really good because it's a tongue-in-cheek spoof both on the early 2000s horror movies. The first Scream, there's a lot of Scream references in there, I feel, but it also has that classic 1980s camp to it. It was one of my favorite. I hope they make a sequel with it. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
No, I haven't, but I know that the director did Happy Death Day, right?
He did, and that was a good one too. He's pretty creative with his I mean, granted, Happy Death Day is kind of just a retread of Groundhog Day, but I feel like they did it very well.
Yeah, I liked it. It
I
was
thought it was
fun.
good. The sequel was good too, but I think the original edges out a little bit. Now, one thing I wanted to know, because they're coloring books, when you make the art, it's just in black and white. It's just a line art. Has there ever been a time where someone shows you a version that they did and it completely changes the feeling of the piece for you? Like you would not have expected to go in that direction.
It happens every day, and that's kind of what got me so hooked on doing this the last 10 years. Before I was doing coloring books, I was writing and illustrating horror graphic novels, and those were full color. And so, it's a much different experience, like locking myself in a room for 6 months, drawing and writing a book, releasing it, and then meeting a couple of fans at Comic Cons and talking about it. The coloring book experience is kind of like draw it in this room, release it, and then it's nonstop. Like it's a never ending art project because people are tagging me every day with their color work on socials. And I get to see a lot of the same pages. People gravitate towards a lot of the same pages, but they color them in all different ways. So 10 different people will come up with 10 different color palettes. They're using different mediums. There's watercolor, some painted with nail polish and glitter, really creative stuff. And it's coming from people all over the world. These books are translated in different languages. They're released in parts of the world that I've never even visited. It's pretty mind blowing the community that has built around these coloring books and the creativity that they bring to it.
And I think that's incredible too. Just thinking about how far these types of things spread. Guliana, she's become so popular. Have you ever thought of making like a full length animated series over Guliana?
Yeah, and even live action. There's so many things going on behind the scenes with the character and the beauty of horror that I wish I could talk about today, but these things take a long time. I once saw an interview with Robert Kirkman who developed The Walking Dead, and it took him 10 years to get that to TV of, really pursuing it. So that these are life goals. But, there is a lot of things going on behind the scenes to try and make that happen. And in the meantime, my friends at NECA Toys have created the Guliana action figure, and there's another one coming on the way, a more deluxe edition that's going to be revealed in a couple of weeks at ToyCon. So yeah, things are happening, and it's so exciting for me as just a fan of the genre, and just to see this little character come to life, and it's been really, really rewarding. There's even people that have showed up to New York Comic Con dressed as Guliana and cosplay and stuff. So it really is really a lot of fun.
And bringing up The Walking Dead makes me think of book or comic book to television adaptations. Good examples are Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead. In the case of the Game of Thrones, that show went on for so long, and it took them so long to write a follow-up book that eventually they had to kind of come up with their own story. Would you want it to be a one-to-one copy, or would you find it interesting to see what ideas people would come up with?
I'm definitely open to ideas, and I have been open to ideas because every one of my comic properties has is at a different stage of development to either become a TV series or a film or a video game even. So like something like Crawl to Me, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but that's something that came out like 2011. That's changed hands between production companies and producers so many times over the years. And it came very close to being made into a live action film. There is a really solid screenplay that um, took what I did in the comic book and then fleshed out backstories and added layers to what I had created that I think is brilliant, and I can't wait to see that come to life.
Now, when you create these characters, do you already have a backstory in your head, or has it been fun seeing something that you created and someone creating a backstory for it?
There's usually an outline that I've written at some point for all these characters, but when you get other writers involved and they expand on ideas or little subtleties in the book, and then flesh them out to be bigger ideas. That's what's exciting, because you're amping up the original intent. It's exciting to bring other people aboard. And then sometimes, you could, like, for instance, Crawl to Me had changed hands with different producers, and different producers had different ideas on how to tell that story. And that one in particular has a big twist ending, and how people are strategic in the way that that twist is revealed in a different medium. Because, like, in the comic book world, you turn the page and you want to captivate the reader in a way that they're going to want to turn the page. With a film, it's a different technique to wow them or provoke some kind of emotion, so it's a much different storytelling device. When I first did the Beauty of Horror in 2016, there was no other horror coloring books. It was kind of intended to be a spoof on the whole adult coloring phenomenon that was happening at the time. When I pitched it to IDW, it happened to be April Fool's Day when I pitched it to them, and they got back to me with the quickest green light that I ever had with them. And I was like, "Are you fucking with me?" Like, that was fast. Like, "Did you guys talk about this before?" And they had, at that time, they wanted to get into the coloring book game, and this was a good vehicle for them to try it out. And it just, it kind of exploded out of the gate to the point that they were reprinting them so fast that I just jumped on drawing book 2 right away. And book 7 just came out, and there's been so many other things, other, holiday specials. We've done ones for Halloween and Christmas. There's a colorable jigsaw puzzle. There are guided journals and tarot card decks that you could color. And also, all of those tarot card designs were put into a giant book with the explanations on each. So it's many, many hours in this room coming up with these ideas and then executing them. And so now, with all these volumes of books, I can't even calculate how many hours I've been thinking and drawing the beauty of horror at this point, over the last 10 years. Next year, it will be 10 years. So what started out as what I thought was gonna be a one and done type of funny project turned into the focus of what I've been doing and concentrating on the last 10 years.
And you spend so much time working on these, and a lot of people, they do close inspection of your artwork to try to find hidden symbols. Because you put so much of yourself into these pages, have you hidden any personal messages, symbols, or maybe even any inside jokes within all that that fans haven't discovered yet?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of, Easter eggs in there, and I think the diehard fans will find them, and some have found them. And then, of course, every book has a kind of like a seek and find hidden things to collect from page to page, and there's always a key in the back of where they are. And that's a lot of fun to hide little icons inside the design itself.
Is there ones from a long time ago that people still haven't discovered?
It's funny. I think that the first book that I did actually has a typo in it because I hid one of the icons in the design and I didn't count it towards the key. And so, uh, but no one's called me out on it yet.
Well, I mean, now they might. Sorry about that. And branching off of that, if you had to design a single coloring book page that encapsulates your entire career, what are some symbols, characters, or even motifs that would be essential to that composition?
Wow. That would be a very busy page. uh, but I think the things that I've concentrated most on, music, special effects, kind of horror makeup. I'm a big fan of the practical effects in horror movies. So my love of, like, American Werewolf in London, The Evil Dead, the original films, even The Shining. These are the things that really got me excited as a young kid and still excite me today. So all of those types of elements, and that's the type of horror that I like to bring to the the book designs as well as the more realistic. Because I've seen a lot of coloring books that get very cartoony, but I really try and keep the designs with realistic proportions and things like that. I could see that by doing that, when people color them, they add a lot of realism to the drawings. They add highlights and reflections and shadows, and they really make the designs pop off the page. I would definitely recommend going into like Instagram and typing in the beauty of horror and seeing all the thousands of pages on there that are just mind blowing.
And practical effects are, unless they're really cheesy when it comes out initially, they're the ones that hold up. Like the flooded hallway scene in The Shining still holds up, still iconic. Jurassic Park, a lot of physical, dinosaurs that still look good. You compare it to the new versions where they just do it CGI, and the CGI dinosaurs now look worse than the ones did in the 1990s. It's almost like CGI went backwards. As they started making movies more and started pumping them out more, they started spending less time on it. Great example, Pirates of the Caribbean. That has some CGI in it that is still gorgeous and holds up today. You have some of these where they'll have a trailer come out and the movie looks unfinished. Sometimes the CGI in those trailers are unfinished, but then it comes out and it doesn't look that much better.
One of my favorite practical films was John Carpenter's The Thing, the original.
Yeah.
And wow, it still holds up.
I'm the same way. I love movies and I will reward movies that have practical effects. Speaking of the movie I told you about, The Hard Eyes, there's this one decapitation scene, and you can tell they used a dummy head, but it
Right.
just looks so much better because, when you're having like the syrup fake gore coming out, you can't make that viscosity with CGI.
Well, that's why the Terrifier films are doing so well.
What did you think about the third one?
I didn't see it yet.
Oh, dude,
I've been so busy, I have to see it, yeah.
it's amazing. What I really like about the third one, and I'm glad he's making a fourth one, this third one kind of is tongue in cheek in some cases and kind of breaks the fourth wall a few times. I won't spoil it for you, but there's one scene that has a song going on in the background. You
Mm,
listen to the lyrics, it's breaking the fourth
mm,
wall.
right.
If you get even a 2 hours of breathing room, you gotta watch it.
I'm about to go on tour this week, so I'll probably watch it on the plane.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And creep out everyone sitting next to you.
Exactly.
Like I said, love your work, love your art. Props to you for not only making your dreams come true as a musician, but returning to what you were originally inspired by. Because not everybody gets that chance. So I'm glad that you got that chance.
Yeah, me too. And, a lot of it was just because I was so passionate about the story that I wanted to tell and finally get it off my chest in a way. Like I came up with this idea called wire hangers when I was at School of Visual Arts. It wasn't until about 2009, many years later, where I was like, I have to just tell the story finally. It's just been sitting here, and I was all set to self-publish it. Like that's how enthusiastic I was to just get it out into the world. It just so happened that I had just joined Twitter at the time. I was following some of my favorite artists on there and writers, and the writer of this little book called Groom Lake started conversing with me. We started trading comics for music and things like that, and and he was like, "Hey, do you want to do wire hangers with us?" Because I had released like an animated trailer for the comic series. And I was like, "With who? With you?" And he was like, "Well, I'm the CEO of IDW also."
Oh,
A
nice.
and I was like, "Hell yeah." I mean, that was IDW at that time was, like, one of my favorite publishers because they had 30 Days of Night and a lot of horror comics, and so I was like, "I would love that." So they released Wire Hangers in 2010, and that's I never left. I was just kept pitching them ideas and Crawl to Me came after that, and Killer G, and then Beauty Horror, so, yeah, it's been a fun run.
And that has to be a really good feeling to have a collaborative partner that is so open to your ideas. Have you ever encountered any creative roadblocks from people in your life, or have you mostly been surrounded by good creative energy?
I have to say, we've been pretty blessed in that sense with the band. When we first signed to Roadrunner Records back in the early 90s. It was a very small independent record label. They became huge with successful acts like Slipknot and Nickelback that really put them on the map. Back in the early 90s, they would champion the artists, and once you had a producer and they felt comfortable with that producer, they felt like, yeah, let's go for it. And there really wasn't a lot of opportunity for them to interject. It was just like, send us the album when it's done. Like we'll show up at the mastering session and check it out with you. And it was really whatever we wanted to do. There was a lot of faith in the artist. When we signed to Sony Epic Records in the 2000s, that was a much different major label type of experience, to the point where they were spending so much money on stupid things. And I'll never forget, we did a music video that cost a ridiculous amount of money. They had a sushi chef on the set and a guy that would just go to Starbucks every 10 minutes for everybody. Like, we were like, what is happening? So much waste, and that we weren't used to. In hindsight, we were paying for all of it because that's how it works. Like, they'll just tack it onto all the royalties that you have to pay back their record sales. But we were so stupid. We didn't know anything. You live and learn. But with the books, being with IDW, who is not one of the Marvel or DCs, I had free reign to do whatever I wanted with all the books. And so that's been a pleasure because I'll hand them a finished, complete project and they'll just print it. I've also worked with a few other publishers over the years that were very similar. Z2 Comics, I've done a bunch of stuff for them the last bunch of years, including the Pantera graphic novel, Typo Negative graphic novel, and another property that's not announced yet. And then Insight Editions, I've been doing official coloring books for Beetlejuice, Universal Monsters. Now, those are more involved because you're dealing with properties owned by Warner Brothers and Universal. So those are more specific on what they're looking for. And there have been edits on those, but nothing that I didn't expect because there's certain likeness rights
Mhm.
involved when you're dealing with properties like a Beetlejuice or Universal Monsters. So there's certain specific things that you have to look out for and adapt to.
Excellent. And just to finish things up, I know you don't want to let any cats out of the bag. Totally respect that. However, you just dropped this incredible coloring book. Do you already have some rough ideas in your head of where you want to go with the next one? Any ideas you want to spitball out loud or?
I actually just delivered the next one that's going to come out in August, which is really unique for the series. So it's the beauty of horror, but instead of volume 8, it's a storybook that you can color.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of like my two loves combined and talking about backstories, like giving Guliana a full narrative. Dozens of new characters are in that book, and it's called Guliana's Sanctuary for Monsters. There's this sanctuary that protects all the monsters in the world that you know of, like the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, all these characters that you know from lore. And they all live there and they're protected in this underground type of sanctuary. And Guliana arrives, and then all hell breaks loose.
She lets them out of the cage.
I don't want to spoil it, but it's good.
You're an incredible artist. I just want to wish you the best of luck, not only on what you just released, but I hope the next one that's coming up you just mentioned is a smash success as well.
Yeah, thanks, man.